ready to dive into the fascinating world of astrology. With Astrology for the Soul as our guide, think of this deep dive as like your personal decoder ring. We'll break down the history, the symbols, and what it all means so you can walk away with your own cosmic cheat sheet.
It's really cool how this source isn't focused on like predicting your day-to-day stuff. Instead, it goes deep into, understanding your soul's blueprint, almost like mapping out your inner landscape.
So, before we get lost in the constellations, can you remind me, where did all this stargazing even begin?
Well, Western astrology, its roots go way back, thousands of years, to ancient Mesopotamia. And back then, it wasn't so much about, individual personalities. It was more about the fate of, like, nations and kings. Can you imagine? Making huge decisions based on where Jupiter was hanging out in the sky.
Oh, that's some serious pressure. But Astrology for the Soul, it takes a more modern approach.
Right, exactly. It focuses on a more soul-centered approach, really about self-discovery and understanding your inner world, but through, this cosmic lens.
And just so we're all on the same page, this source uses the tropical zodiac and the whole sign house system, which is what we're using today.
Yeah, exactly. Think of it like choosing a specific map to, navigate the world.
I'm ready to explore.
Yeah.
Now, this source has a visual of a birth chart, which I really appreciate, to help make sense of all the pieces. But before we get to the specifics of, like, your chart, let's break down the building blocks, starting with the zodiac wheel. It's divided into those 12 slices, each one a zodiac sign.
Yep. Think of it like a giant cosmic clock, and each slice represents a different, archetype.
Within the wheel, you have the 12 houses. Each one represents a different area of life. It's like the stage where those signs' energies play out.
You got it. So, like, the seventh house, that's all about, partnerships and relationships. So if your Venus, the planet of love, is hanging out in that house, it can give us a little peek into how you approach relationships.
But there's so much more than just sun sign astrology, right? I mean, there's this whole interplay of elements, modalities, planets.
Totally. Yeah, your sun sign is important, but it's just one piece of the puzzle. It's how all those elements work together that gives us the real depth.
Okay, so let's start with the elements fire, earth, air, and water. Everyone have all four elements represented in their chart, right?
Yeah. And it's the balance or sometimes the imbalance of those elements that make each chart unique. And these elements, they go beyond just like basic personality traits. They actually represent your core drives, how you handle different situations.
So how do these elements play out in, like, real life? I mean, in relationships or even how you approach work?
Well, let's say someone has a lot of fire in their chart. They might be, really passionate, energetic, maybe a natural leader. But too much fire without, say, the grounding of earth or the emotional depth of water that can lead to, being impulsive or even aggressive.
So it's about understanding the potential and also the challenges of each element, right?
Exactly. So each element, it has like a higher and a lower expression. So for example, water, when it's balanced, it's super intuitive, compassionate, but when it's kind of out of whack, it can show up as like moodiness or being oversensitive.
Makes total sense. It's so much more nuanced than, just I'm a fire sign, so therefore.
Absolutely. Now, are you ready to add another layer to this cosmic cake?
Bring on the astrological frosting. I'm ready.
All right, so let's talk modalities. You have cardinal, fixed, and mutable. Those relate to like how that elemental energy is expressed, whether it's initiating, stabilizing, or adapting.
So someone who's let's say a cardinal fire sign, like Aries, they might be amazing at like starting projects, but then struggle with the follow through.
That's a perfect example. And then like a fixed earth sign, say Taurus, they'd come in and provide that, stability and structure. They'd be the ones to actually get those projects finished.
So it's like we all have our own like cosmic strengths and weaknesses.
Exactly. We need all the modalities, just like, we need all the seasons, to create a balanced and fulfilling life.
That makes me think of something I've always wondered about. Masculine and feminine energy in astrology. What's that all about?
Yeah, and it's important to remember this isn't about gender. It's about how energy expresses itself. So masculine energy is, very directed, outward focused, all about taking action. Feminine energy is more receptive, flowing, intuitive.
Okay, so going back to that project example,
Yeah.
that initial spark, like the brainstorming, that's feminine energy. But then the actual steps, the process of getting it done, that's masculine energy.
You got it. And then letting go of the outcome, trusting the process, that brings us right back to that feminine energy.
It's like a dance between these two energies. We need both,
Yeah.
but I think we often lean more towards one.
Absolutely. And it's about finding that sweet spot, that balance between action and intuition.
All right, so now I can't wait any longer. Let's talk about the signs themselves.
Okay, let's take a trip around the zodiac wheel. And remember, we'll touch on all 12 signs, but we'll focus on the aspects that are relevant to your chart. So are you ready to start with Aries?
Bring on the fire.
All right, welcome back. We're diving deeper into astrology for the soul and all the little nuances that make it so insightful. Remember those aspects, those angular relationships between planets?
Oh yeah, those cosmic conversations.
Exactly. So let's unravel some of those, shall we? Starting with the conjunction.
Conjunctions. Two planets, right next to each other in the chart. What's the big deal with those? Double the trouble.
It can be intense, but not necessarily trouble. When planets are conjunct, their energies, they kind of blend together. It creates a powerful influence, almost like a dynamic duo working as a team.
So if I have Mercury, the communication planet, conjunct Mars, the action planet, does that mean I'm destined to be this fast-talking go-getter, always rushing around?
Well, it definitely suggests a potential for, assertiveness and direct communication. You might be quick-witted, have a lot of energy to put your ideas into action. But remember, astrology is more about possibilities, not guarantees. It's how you choose to use those energies.
Right, like having a powerful tool, but you got to learn how to, use it responsibly. What about sextiles? They sound a bit more chill.
Sextiles are definitely more relaxed, like a friendly wave between planets, a harmonious aspect, creates opportunities, encourages flow.
So it's not like a free pass to success, but more like a little nudge from the universe saying, hey, this path looks promising, give it a shot.
Exactly. It's like a talent or a potential just waiting to be developed. Think of it like a seed that needs nurturing.
Okay, that makes sense. So what about trines? They sound almost like too good to be true.
Trines are the cosmic high fives, the most harmonious aspect. They suggest ease, good luck, natural talent, like the universe is giving you a thumbs up in that area of life.
So if I have a trine between my sun and Venus, does that mean I'm just going to be effortlessly charming? Everyone's going to love me.
Well, it definitely suggests a potential for, warmth, charisma, and an appreciation for beauty. You might find expressing yourself creatively comes naturally, but remember, even with ease, there's always room to grow.
Right. No cosmic shortcuts to enlightenment. Okay, now let's talk about squares. They don't sound quite as harmonious as trines.
Yeah, squares, that's where we get some cosmic friction. They represent tension, challenges, obstacles that require us to, work a little harder. Think of it like a cosmic boot camp.
So Venus square Saturn doesn't exactly sound like a recipe for a blissful love life.
Well, it might indicate some challenges related to self-worth, or maybe a tendency to hold yourself back in relationships. Perhaps a fear of commitment or attracting partners who are, emotionally unavailable. But the beauty of squares is they push us to grow.
So it's about working through those challenges, not just giving up and saying, well, I guess I'm doomed to bad relationships.
Exactly. Squares, they force us to confront those, shadow parts of ourselves and develop resilience, those tough teachers that make us stronger in the end.
Okay, challenge accepted. So what about oppositions? Is it like two planets in my chart just battling it out?
Oppositions are all about finding balance, but between two seemingly opposite forces, like a cosmic tug of war. But the goal is to find that middle ground.
Okay, so an opposition between Mercury, the planet of communication, and Jupiter, expansion. Would that manifest as a struggle between talking and listening, or maybe overthinking things?
That's a perfect example. Or it could manifest as a talent for, say, teaching public speaking, using that expansive knowledge to communicate effectively.
So even these seemingly challenging aspects, they can have positive expressions.
Absolutely. It's all about understanding that energy and finding ways to, work with it consciously.
This is making so much sense. It's like astrology is giving us a language to understand all these dynamics that are happening in our lives.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like we're decoding those messages from the cosmos. Now, this source mentions some unique configurations, the T-square and the grand trine.
T-square, grand trine. Those sound pretty intense.
They are. A T-square, that's formed when you have an opposition between two planets and then two other planets square those planets. So it can create a lot of internal tension, challenges, but also incredible drive and potential.
Whoa. So it's like 3 planets in a cosmic showdown.
You could say that. It's a dynamic configuration. It can really push you to overcome obstacles, achieve big things, but it takes conscious effort to channel that energy constructively.
No pressure then. What about the Grand Trine? Does that mean you just like coast through life? No challenges at all?
The Grand Trine is a harmonious configuration formed by 3 planets, all in trine aspect to each other. Creates this smooth flow of energy often associated with luck, talent, ease. But it's important to remember, even with that ease, that natural talent, we still have to, put in the effort to develop our gifts.
Right. Even with cosmic blessings, you got to do the work.
Exactly. But overall, a grand trine can bring a sense of harmony, flow to those areas of life. Now, this source also talks about aspects involving the lunar nodes and those outer planets.
Oh yeah. What's so special about those?
Well, they offer insights into your soul's journey, those karmic patterns, your potential for evolution. Aspects to the South Node that represents past life experiences can reveal patterns that are, familiar, comfortable, but they might also be holding you back.
So if I have, say, Mars square my South Node, does that mean I'm like destined to repeat these patterns of anger or aggression from a past life?
It's not about being destined. It's more about recognizing those patterns and how they might be, playing out in this life.
So like astrology gives us clues about our karmic baggage so we can learn to pack a little lighter.
Exactly. It's about awareness, not judgment. And then aspects to the North Node, that's your soul's purpose, show us the path toward growth and evolution.
Okay, so let's say my North Node's in Libra, and I have this trine aspect from Venus. Does that mean I'm destined for a life filled with love, beauty, and perfect relationships?
It definitely suggests a strong potential for those things. But remember, it's up to you to cultivate those qualities, create the life you desire.
Okay, no cosmic guarantees. Got it. Now, the source talks about mixing house energies. What does that even mean?
It's about understanding how different areas of life kind of like influence each other. So, for example, the second house is all about values, possessions, and the eighth house is about like shared resources and transformation.
Yeah.
Someone with the planet, bridging those 2 houses might find their finances are deeply connected to their intimate relationships.
So they might have this strong drive to like create financial security with a partner. Or maybe they tend to attract partners who help them transform their relationship with money.
Exactly. It's about seeing how those houses interweave, influence each other.
This is getting complex, but in a good way.
Yep.
Like we're starting to see how all these pieces are, connected.
It is a complex system, but the beauty is in the depth. Now, this source also emphasizes the importance of understanding your chart ruler.
Okay, chart ruler. What's that all about? Is that like the king or queen of my astrological kingdom?
You could think of it that way. It's the planet that rules the zodiac sign of your ascendant, which represents your, outward personality.
So like if my ascendant is in Taurus, which is ruled by Venus, then Venus is my chart ruler.
Exactly. And by examining the placement of Venus in your chart, its sign, house, aspects, we can gain a lot of insight into your overall approach to life.
It's just like the chart ruler acts as this magnifying glass, focusing on a specific energy that's like super important in your life.
Precisely. It offers valuable clues about your strengths, challenges, even those karmic patterns we talked about.
Wow, we've covered so much ground, but I feel like there's still more to uncover.
Right. You're right. There's always more to explore with astrology. And in our final part, we're going to move from, understanding the system to actually applying this knowledge for personal growth and transformation.
I'm ready for more cosmic wisdom. Stay tuned, listener. The journey continues. All right, so we're in the final part of our deep dive into astrology for the soul, and I'm kind of excited to shift from, understanding the system to actually using this knowledge. Like we've been putting together this amazing cosmic toolkit. Now it's time to actually put it to work.
Exactly. This is where astrology gets really empowering. It's not just about, interpreting symbols. It's about using those insights to actually make choices.
So how do we go from okay, I get it, I have Saturn in the 7th house, to actually using that in my relationships? This source talks a lot about feeling the energy of your chart. What does that even mean?
Yeah, it's about moving beyond just the intellectual analysis and tapping into your intuition. So instead of thinking, oh, I'm a Scorpio, so I must be intense, try closing your eyes, visualizing that Scorpio energy. See what you feel.
It's almost like embodiment, right? Actually stepping into the energy of the planets and signs.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Spend some time meditating on your chart, visualizing those placements. See what emotions come up, what insights you get.
Now, this source also talks about looking for those recurring themes in your chart. What kind of themes are we talking about?
Well, notice which elements are most prominent. Do you have a lot of fire? Maybe that suggests, a need for action, self-expression, or a lot of water. Could point to a deep emotional sensitivity.
And what about those challenging aspects, like squares or oppositions? Those can be themes too.
Absolutely. Let's say you keep seeing squares involving Saturn. That might point to a theme of, working through limitations, boundaries, authority figures.
So it's like astrology's giving us these clues about like the areas we're meant to grow in, the lessons we're here to learn.
Exactly. And those themes, they can show up in different areas of life depending on which houses are involved.
It reminds me of that example from the source Jacob's chart. It wasn't just about those individual placements. It was about how they all like wove together to tell this story,
Yeah.
this like beautiful, complex tapestry.
Yeah. It's about seeing that interconnectedness, that whole picture. And that can feel overwhelming at first, but it's also incredibly liberating.
Liberating. How so?
Because once you see those patterns, understand the energies at play, you realize you have so much more choice than you thought.
Yeah.
You can work with those energies consciously instead of feeling like you're, at their mercy.
So it's like astrology gives us the map, but we still get to choose the destination.
Exactly. And even if you're not, a professional astrologer, there are so many ways to use this. You can research your specific placements, experiment with different techniques, even get a personalized reading.
I got to admit, a personalized reading sounds pretty tempting.
Mm.
But even without that, just having this basic understanding, it feels empowering.
It is empowering because it helps you understand your strengths, your challenges, your potential. It gives you permission to be fully yourself, even the messy, complicated parts.
That's so true. For so long, I think I tried to fit myself into these boxes that just didn't quite resonate. It's like astrology is saying, hey, it's okay to be exactly who you are, cosmic quirks and all.
Exactly. Your birth chart is a roadmap, not a cage. It's a guide, but you always have free will. You get to choose your path.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's resonating with you, listener? What are you curious about in your chart? What are you excited to explore further?
And remember, this is just the beginning of your astrological adventure. There's always more to learn, more to discover. So keep exploring, keep learning, keep looking to those stars for guidance.
We hope this deep dive has sparked a sense of wonder and that you feel empowered to, really embrace this wisdom of astrology. Thanks for joining us.